Andor is an underrated masterpiece and easily the best Disney Star Wars media that has ever been released. I love this show and it has become my favorite sci-fi show, so I wanted to make this video explaining from a film perspective why it's amazing. From characterization, plot points, and even the most mundane scene, everything in Andor has value, especially compared to the later Disney shows where they have scenes that add nothing. Just real quick, I learned how to edit this. I learned how to edit literally just for this video. So please like the video if you enjoy it, just so I know how well I did. It's my first time. You don't need a sub, but you can if you want. That's all right with you. But I don't make any money from this video. This is literally just a passion project. So if at least 5 people comment and are interested, I'll make more episodes for the remainder of the season. But overall, I love Andor, and many Star Wars fans haven't seen it. I just wanted to make this review so more people watch the show because I truly believe it's a flawless show and offers fans the Star Wars fix they've been craving that Disney has not really been delivering. So let's move on.
Came by for you last night.
Yeah, I know. What'd you do when you left?
Tired. I went home, cleaned up a bit, and then I fell asleep.
No. You can buy for me, but I wasn't there. So then you started home and you saw me at the hotel bridge. We decided we were thirsty and you wanted to go to Cabos, but I said that was no good because there's too many people there I owe money.
You serious?
Yeah.
Who's going to be asking?
So Cabos was out, but then you remembered you still had half a bottle of Nog stashed at home. So we went there and drank ourselves to sleep.
So this scene is amazing for a couple of reasons. Now I'm skipping past the intro for the first 15 minutes. So like I said, this is a flawless show and I truly believe that. The only criticism is the first 15 minutes are a bit of a slog. It's just introducing characters. You get great characterization for Cassian Andor here. But I won't spoil it too much. It's a bit of a slog. But from now on, the show really picks up and you really get to learn these characters, and it's brilliant. So this scene rather, shows us a couple things. So first of all, it shows Cassian Andor's a smuggler. Now you've seen this in the first 15 minutes, but just skipping that. He's a smuggler, he's smart, and he's witty. This is all show, don't tell. I know he's speaking, but he's showing the audience how he's smart, he's on his feet, and he's got a plan. So he's going to avoid being persecuted by having an alibi here. This also shows that he's great with the little community. Now, we'll talk on this later, but the best thing about this show is world building. How many Star Wars shows have we seen where the set piece is literally just an unknown village on an unknown planet that nobody cares about? This is a beautiful brick area, Rick's Road. It's amazing. I could talk about Rick's Road forever. They built the entire set piece. It's brilliant. But he's showing his connection with the friends and his quick-wittedness. So you'll see connections moving through, but this is really just where I wanted to start off by showing how great the characterization is, but we'll talk more later.
This is quite the report. This happened when?
Last night, sir. I knew you were leaving this morning, and I wanted to make sure you had all the available information before your departure.
You've been very busy.
2 men are dead, sir. Employees. That's not worth staying up for, then I'm not worthy of the uniform.
Have you modified your uniform?
Perhaps slightly. Pockets piping and some light tailoring.
I know one of these men. Kravas.
It's another reason I wanted to make sure this got the most immediate attention.
He was a squad commander on 4.
It's obviously fallen a great deal since then. He was a sentry corporal here on 1.
No mystery there. He's lucky he wasn't killed years ago. One of the most unpleasant people I've ever met. There's no suspect at this point.
We have some excellent leads.
A human with dark features asking about a Canary girl who might have been working in the establishment. Are there no witnesses to the actual crime? It's usually quite busy there.
Apparently not. This happened just outside the district at the plaza entrance to the causeway.
Yes,
There's
I know.
an intersection.
I said I know it. Were they robbed?
No, sir.
Tough case.
Okay, so this scene is brilliant for another reason. So in the short span of 1 minute, we learn 5 things about this character. Now, quickly, the amazing thing about this show, and I could talk about this for hours, is the characterization. Every single character, and he becomes an antagonist, side character, main character, are all very interesting, and they have clear motivation. It humanizes them, and it really makes you sympathize with them, and you can relate to them in some ways. Many characters are brilliantly written, and this is no exception. So the 5 things we learned here. Primarily the uniform, right? So that's the first thing. He adjusts his uniform, and they tell you later, but essentially the uniform he adjusts, he doesn't want to be seen as a regular uniform. He thinks he deserves more than that, and he does. He's very smart, which is the second thing. He's able to gather all this information, and he's quite intelligent. He's a good detective, and he finds it out. Um, he's back to the uniform. So the uniform is representative of the fact that he is more than just the uniform. He makes adjustments because he wants to stand out. Now, thirdly, he has a great respect for authority. He's still at ease, sorry, not at ease, he's at attention, he's presenting himself formally towards his superior officer. Even if the superior officer is a bit relaxed, as you can clearly see in the frame right here, he's slouching, he barely cares. He's still presenting. Fourthly, he wants to prove himself. Now he brings this case because he wants to climb the ranks, which goes into the uniform. He's not just a uniform. He's a very experienced person. Still young, but he believes that he is worth more than the station he's given, which really drives his character motivation, and many people can sympathize with wanting to climb the ranks of the job they've been given. This isn't necessarily the job he wants, but it's on his way to glory. Now, fifthly is the time consumption. So we learned that he spent all night just doing this, which means he will do what it takes to get the job done. He's relentless. He stays up all night to get this. He is dedicated to his goal, which in all accounts does make him a more interesting character. No one wants to see a lazy character getting all the fame. He works hard, and in the end he gets fired. Spoiler alert, but this has been out for a while. He gets fired, and that really isn't fair, and you can sort of very sympathize with him. He was just trying to do his job, even if he went against a direct order. He does the right thing, what he believes, which is really a beautiful narrative here. They are constantly, all characters are doing what they believe is right, and you understand why they believe it's right, and it's really smart the way it's done. Moving forward.
Corvette coming in this week, looking for scrap. I'm told there's a rack of Imperial targeting units someone might forget to strip out. We get that thing you've got. I've got a few naval comm scans.
I can't wait that long.
Why? What have you done?
Your friend will want this piece. He'll come for this. You said he wanted to meet me.
So what is it? What is it?
I got an untraceable NS9 Starpath unit. Vector crystals and Imperial seal still intact.
How long have you had that?
I need to move it, Vix.
You've been hiding it.
I've been saving
And I'm
it.
guessing it comes from one of my bits.
So this scene is really great. So what we know from Cassian Andor thus far, right, is he's very smart, but he doesn't trust anybody. His personal robot he doesn't even tell him where he's going. He doesn't tell him anything. He doesn't trust anybody but himself. Now, this is the introduction to Biggs here, but we learn from this introduction that he trusts Biggs. We don't really know their relationship yet, although we know she has a boyfriend or a love interest or whatever. But we know that he trusts her greatly, which immediately makes you think, oh, childhood friends or something, but they're very close. So we immediately understand the relationship they sort of have. It's very close. Now, with the pronunciation and the use of the words, the actor does a great job who plays Cassian Andor. I'm blanking on his name, but he does a great job. When he slows as he says the Starpath unit. Now, if you don't know anything about Star Wars, you're like, what the hell is a Starpath unit? I don't know what a Starpath unit is. But the way he slows it tells it it's very valuable, it's very rare, and the Empire is very upset that he has it, or they would be if they knew he had it, because they're idiots. They don't know nothing. But anyway, that's beyond the point. So we know it's rare, we know it's valuable, and it's his sort of golden egg or golden goose that he's had in the back pocket. Now that the corporate guards are after him and he's got an alibi set, he needs to get the hell out of here. So he's going to take that Starpath unit, he's going to try and sell it to the mysterious buyer that we'll talk about later. Now the final thing we know here is you can see Cassian, he's very desperate. Now we know he's a smuggler, and we know from what we've seen previously that he's very, he's used to this sort of lifestyle. He's a smuggler, you know, he's used to it. He's like, he does this all the time. But if he's this worked up, he clearly knows the situation he's in, and it's very dire. This sets the stakes of the consequences moving forward for that 3-episode part, right? When the corporates come through. So you can see how desperate he is without even saying, I'm desperate, like they do in Bloody Acolyte, being like, just saying exactly how they feel. You see how desperate it is, and that really builds the stakes. The actors did a phenomenal job here, and it's just really brilliant. But moving forward.
Hey, Cass.
Hey,
What's the hurry? Got someplace to be?
Yeah.
Oh, not happy to see me? No love for Nachi.
No, I'm late, okay?
Oh, I know. I want my deposit back.
I wish I could, but it's in play. Just waiting to hear they're on site, okay? Vetch? Seriously?
I'm not one of these losers gonna let you float until they forget how much you owe them.
You're here with him. To what? To threaten me? Vetch, you let him talk you into this?
The subject is money.
I just ask you a question.
What?
Since when you take orders from Nurture?
Don't answer that.
You need work this bad.
Leave him out of it.
He said all I needed to do was stand here.
Now this scene is really important. It shows so many things. Firstly, it reinforces Cassian is a bit of a... His moral values aren't exactly questionable. He's a bit of an anti-hero in that his friend here, I believe his name is Nurchich or something along those lines, something with an N. It's kind of hard to hear and I'm struggling to remember his name. He's only a side character, so he's really not that important. But he feels cheated by Cassian because he takes money from all his friends, pretty much anyone he can get a hand on, and maybe he gambles it, you know, whatever. He does many things with it, right? He does whatever he wants, and he takes money and yada yada. He doesn't hurt his friends directly, but he doesn't pay them back, and we learn that. So Cassian's a bit on the edge, right? Not exactly a great guy, but not a horrible guy either. Another thing we learn that's really important here is Cassian's incredible ability to wiggle his way out of any situation. Now, this is shown with Han Solo, but this is really doubling down on that smuggler aspect. He's easily able to wiggle his way out. He tries just walking past, which doesn't work, and then he tries, you know, manipulating the situation. He tries guilt tripping, and he tries just about everything, and it turns out working. He doesn't give him any money, and he just walks out of here after this scene. It's really good. Now, the other thing that we haven't talked about yet is the setup and payoff. So again, Nurch is here. He feels cheated that he's owed money and he's not going to get it back. He probably knows he's not going to get it back, which sets up a scene later. Now, we won't talk too much about it because it's the final episode, but it's really early setup. So Cassian is not respecting his friend here, and he wants his money. He feels he's owed his money. So later, he'll betray Cassian, and again, I won't spoil it too much, but it's kind of obvious that he will betray Cassian. And that's sort of, this is the first thing. This is really what sets that up, and it's really nice. There's no wasted time here. This is a really important scene. It's possibly my favorite scene in this episode alone.
What do you think you're doing? Forgot something. Now? He's in the office. I refilled it, just like you told me. And now, I'm almost done. What is that? Is that the ID chip log? It's the old one. I'm just putting a blank in right now.
Heckler! What in the name of Chop is going on out there?
I think the yard rats are back.
There's a customer on front. Get those hounds to start earning their keep.
Why are you swapping chip logs? You're gonna get us both in trouble.
I didn't like the way it was running last night.
So you do me a favor?
Leave it better than you found it.
The way you always...
Okay, so this is an interesting scene. It's very subtle, and a lot of people would probably skip past this, not really understanding the value in its scene, but this is why I love this show. Everything has so much meaning. So, first of all, the gentleman with the hounds, again, forgetting his name, he's a side character, not very important, but when he implies that the boss is in, what this tells us is that Cassian is a blue-collar guy. He's friends with blue-collar guys, and he uses them when he needs to. He's also comfortable where he's already there. He doesn't even ask his friend for permission. He just is in there doing his little thing, obviously trying to make an alibi, and again reinforcing he doesn't trust anybody. The only person we've really seen him open up to is his deep friend Biggs. Now, the other thing that's important to notice here is he's run out of favors. This is the moment where the stakes sort of get raunched out, because the next couple of episodes it's going to be an attack on the home front, basically. Like he has no one to rely on. This is it. This is his last favor, and he has no escape. He has no ship. This ship is unavailable to him. There's nothing he can do about it. So this is really the last scene we're going to touch on for episode 1. Again, episode 1, a bit of a slow one, not very interesting personally, but it really sets the stakes and really builds up. It's only getting better from here. Trust me. If you're gonna miss out, excuse me, if you're gonna miss out on one episode, skip episode 1. Okay, episode 1 is great, but the show is so amazing. You seriously can't miss this. I'm telling you, as a Star Wars fan, this is phenomenal. Okay, the writing is immaculate. But anyway, so this is the last scene we're going to touch on, and then we'll move into episode 2. We're going to do these in 3-part segments, because they're each directed in 3-part segments. Again, the first one a bit slow. I really think it could have used a more interesting hook. It takes about 5 minutes before he gets frisked by corporate guards, and then he kills them, and that's really when the plot starts. And again, there's a bit at the start where he's looking for his sister, and that really doesn't have any main relevance to the plot. It's sort of a nothing burger. We'll see how it pays off in season 2. We're really not too sure. Maybe he finds his sister. We don't know. There's nothing about that in Rogue One. So it's kind of irrelevant, and I'm not really sure why it's there. I think a really important thing would be something, a hook, like The Mandalorian season 1 episode 1 does a great job. They start at a bar and they show his physical prowess, but obviously Cassian is not a physically gifted guy. Sure, he can shoot a gun and he ain't horrible, but he's crafty. He's on his toes. You know, he's a smart guy. He's a smuggler. He doesn't need to be good with a gun. He's swifty, you know. So let's move on to episode 2.
So now we're moving into episode 2, season 1 of Andor. And there's a couple things I just want to go into before we really start moving into scene by scenes. So this is another setup episode. Episode 1 was pretty much just introducing characters, and there's some of that here, but really it's just setting up and building the climax of the 3-episode part. So episode 3 being the main climax, and we'll be spending a lot of time talking about episode 3, not so much time spending episode 2. But there's a couple important things I just want to talk about first. So just to reiterate, this is not The Mandalorian. This is not as classical Star Wars story. This is about build-up and payoff. The build-up here is really important. We're introduced to new characters, which are really important, one of which playing a pivotal role. We'll talk about him later. But we're also introduced to some more side characters, and we really sort of get to feel trapped in it. Builds tension. It's really good if you're wanting to binge watch it. Now, it is a 40-minute episode, so binge watching might be difficult, but this really builds the stakes and really brings you in, because right after this, episode 2 is episode 3, and that's after episode 3. I know I've said this before. After episode 3, everything is happening, right? So we get to see, as you can see just in the trailer footage there, the corporate guards come in, and this is really what builds the plot. This is really where it starts off. So they understand they're after Cassian Andor. They know who they want now. So all it is a matter of finding him, and this really is just a very important episode. Not as important as some of the other ones, and not as interesting as some of the other ones, but there's full of juicy scenes that we will be talking about. I look forward to getting into it with you guys. Again, please leave a like or a comment just for any feedback. I would really appreciate it. Again, this is my first time editing. I'm really not used to all the gimmicks, but yeah, I look forward to moving on to the scenes with you. I'll see you soon.
Now I'm pausing this right here very quickly. So this is Cyril, as we discussed earlier. He's smart, he's He's a good detective, and he will find Andor. That's his dedicated mission, because he believes that's his job. And he's right. So, as you saw the lady there, if you can't remember if it's a little too dark, she was the lady in episode 1 that we really introduced Cassian with. We bounce off some ideas about Cassian's charisma using that character, and she doesn't play a role. She's not showing up after this, but she just quickly shows in. They don't even have a scene where she explains, yes, that's Cassian, because the audience, Andor knows the audience is smart, and they really value the time. I know many people say Andor is a bit slow, it's a bit sluggish. I've tried to give this show to some of my friends, and they say that. But really, after episode 2, it really picks up, and there's never a dull moment. But this is really where I wanted to pause here, because this is really where I figured that this is the moment where they really hone in on that payoff. So episode 1 had so much setup stuff. Not only were they introducing characters and doing a great job at it, again, characterization is very important, and they do a phenomenal job at it with Andor. But after, they introduce these payoffs that are very rewarding. So in setup, we had that intro sequence with the lady and the corpo guards, and not only does the corpo guards murdering push the plot along and really initiate the thing, the plot rather, but also we see her come back, and that really gives us the lead, and it makes it make sense. I'm so sick of these shows where they sort of just figure stuff out, or the plot just demands that they get there, so they get there, and the writers don't know how to do it. But the way they did this was really smart. Now, again, I do think the intro sequence could have used a more interesting hook, other than just walking through as, a raining city. But they still did a really good job. Final note. The acting here is really good. Now, I like Mandalorian. Obviously, it's a great show, and I've talked about it in this video. But what I really like about Mandalorian is the stunt double, and also Pedro Pascal, blanking on his name for a second. They do a really good job of saying so much without having any facial expressions. Watching The Acolyte, and you've seen the memes, Amanda Stenberg has one facial expression, and that's all she has the whole show. It's not interesting. It's not good. She would honestly be a great character to have a helmet, just so they don't see the one facial expression. But in this scenario, in the subtle movements, you can already tell he's quite proud of himself. He's figured it out, and we already know that he's about to figure out who Cassian Andor is, and they'll be moving onto Rick's Road in the next episode. I said Rick's Road, the planet's Ferrix, but the town is Rick's Road. So this is just really good facial expression. Pedro Pascal does a really good job of acting without saying anything, and I'm very sick of this show don't tell. Again, going back to The Acolyte, there were so many scenes where they're just explaining the character's backstory to the character. Like Yord, I believe his name is, explaining to something with an M, Mia maybe? I can't honestly, I can't remember. That show was really, I tried to blank it out of my memory. But he's just explaining, oh, your sister died, the backstory, yada yada. It's like, why are you explaining this to her? She knows it would be traumatic just bringing up your friend's trauma as you're explaining to them why they're here, It's a bit silly. But they don't do that here. They're very good at show, don't tell, and they rely on the audience to pick up things, which is really what I like about the show. I don't like shows where they just say, oh, turn your brain off and you can enjoy it. That's stupid. I'm not someone who's on their phone when I'm watching something. If it's really boring, like Family Guy, whatever, maybe I'll go on my phone, right? But this really keeps the audience's attention. You have to be paying attention, because these subtle movements are really impressive, to me anyway, and I really hope other people can appreciate them the way I can.
Middle of the night.
No, sir. Privilege, sir. Got the brief on the ride in.
I'd like to move on this quickly. We have a dangerous mobile suspect in a very serious crime.
Couldn't agree more, sir. Tempo is crucial. Velocity in the service of inspired leadership. Is there a worthy substitute? I think not.
So one suspect. How many men do you think we need?
I'll say 12, sir, just to be prudent. Will you be suiting up with us, sir?
I think I should, don't you?
Absolutely, sir. Show force, boost morale. Nothing like seeing an officer on the line.
Excellent.
If I may, sir, hats off to you and Chief Inspector. 2 men dead, line of duty, colleagues. It's outrageous.
Exactly. The thought of anything less than full engagement on a case like this.
Unconscionable.
Now we've got two Cyril scenes back to back here. Now there is a couple scenes just in between this, but I really wanted to hone on. So Cyril is a really well-defined character. He gets a lot of screen time in the first 3 episodes, and then he sort of gets a couple episodes that we might he gets a couple scenes rather that we might talk about in the later episodes if I decide to make them. But really what's important here is you learn so much, and that's why it's such a great character. So first of all, we haven't really talked about Cyril's proficiency when it comes to military aspects. He's an officer, he's not a soldier. But you can see here, he's asking advice, and he's, you know, he doesn't know this stuff. He's just an officer, and you'll see later he'll give a speech, and I don't think we'll include that in the video, probably not, because it's a bit of a boring speech, and it really only shows one thing. It's not a boring speech, it's boring intentionally, rather. They want to show that he's not a great leader, but he's smart, right? So what we learn here, obviously, is that one, again, he has a respect for authority, just honing that down. This gentleman is not his boss or superior, but he is experienced with more time on the force, right? Now, he's got a great accent. I love that accent, this larger gentleman. And he's also a great actor. He does a great job. He's very likable. But this is what I'm talking about, where the writers of Andor make every character so understanding. You can see he's passionate. He's enraged that his colleagues got killed and nobody wants to do anything. They're just sweeping it under the rug. And that's a fair reasoning, you know. If your friend died, I'm sure you would want justice for that thing. Obviously, he wasn't friends with these people, but it's principle that matters. Now, again, he's prideful. When he's talking to this gentleman, Cyril is very prideful. You can see he's proud of his accomplishment that he found him, and they're going to move on this. Again, he's not a military expert, so his officer instincts of, you know, leadership aren't there, but he's smart enough to trace down the location, and he's going in. This is, I believe, his first on-site mission. So this really like sets the tone of his inexperience, which is another thing that we talked about literally moments ago. Setup and payoff. So this really subtly is setting up that he's inexperienced, and that'll explain later what happens in episode 3. Again, we'll get there. How he gets captured, right? He loses, unfortunately, and that really pushes his character arc down because he has to lose to realize, to have that vendetta, that anger, that he could have done better. If he was just a little better, you know, he could have got Andor. And this really sets his character arc. It's very relatable for many people. I can relate. I'm sure many of you can relate to the struggle of wanting to be the best in your field, especially when he's so young and inexperienced. But it's a really good job here. I just really wanted to highlight the excellent characterization. I could talk about it forever. They really make this character very likable, very interesting, and they do a great job with it. This scene is great for a variety of reasons. I hope you can appreciate that I'm not talking about the same thing twice here. So this is the Star Path unit. Now, we know that this is the high value goods because obviously he's going to retrieve it because he needs to get out of here. He needs that money, and we know it's valuable. We know it's valuable not only because it's told to us, but the item looks shiny. This isn't something that they do in Rings of Power a lot, where the props look cheap, and it's like, what are we talking? How is this valuable? You know, that looks beautiful. It's shiny. It's pristine. You know, you can tell it's Imperial. Imperial is very clean. Their facility's very clean. They have droids cleaning the surfaces. It's white. It's black. It's spotless, right? And that Imperial thing doesn't fit in Rick's Road at all. Like, it's dirty. It's brick laid, it's not technical, it's classic, you know, so it's really, there's a lot of symbolism here that's really important. The reflection, you see Andor's reflection, this is important because this is sort of telling us that this is, Andor stole this. He got it because he sees his reflection in it. It's subtle symbolism. You could say I'm grasping at straws. I don't think so. I think the directors did a really good job here. And the final thing I want to touch on is the score. We haven't talked about this. The score is phenomenal, really nice. There's a beautiful music score after every, during the credits. It's really great. Mandalorian has a really good score, and a lot of people enjoyed that score, right? But this Andor's music is really good. I really like the build up, and you'll see later that the music is always fitting to the scene. There's a moment very late in the season that's really emotional and gives me goosebumps every time, where Andor discovers some bad news. I won't spoil it yet until we get there, which, it's like the second last episode. But he gets very emotional, and the music that plays is so fitting. You can hear the music here. It's sort of upbeat. It's picking up because it's like, oh, this is his option. This is his one way to get out of here. Things might be looking up. He can get this piece, he can sell it, and he can get out of here, get out of Dodge, But the music they play later is more somber and depressing, but still beautiful. I really love the score here, and I really wanted to touch on that because it's underappreciated. There's so many aspects that make the show great. When people think of good at many, great at none, they don't really think it's possible because they don't think it's possible to be great at everything and, bad at nothing. But I really think Andor is great at so many things, and there's only a handful of things it really struggles with, which is why I truly think it's flawless. IGN would give something like a third as good as this, like an 8. So why would I not give this a 10, in my opinion? Let's move on though. Now, really what I want to talk about here, we're not going to play the clip, but this is just going to be a stand-in for all the flashback sequences that happen early on. So there's really only, because you don't understand the language they're speaking and there's no subtitles, there's really not much you can learn from this stuff. There's great camera work, great music, and great subtle acting. But unfortunately there's child actors and they can't do as great a job as you'd hope, really. They do a fine job, and the actor who plays Cassian is really solid. But what we learn from here is not only Cassian is very curious. This gets doubled down later, and we'll talk about that sooner or later. But he's curious, and also I want to point out the camera work here is really good. It's shaky. There's never a moment, apart from these wide shots, where the camera is still. But whenever it's like from the perspective of the troop that Cass is part of, the camera is shaky. They're nervous. This is unknown territory. They're a small little village people, and there's this unknown ship that's just crashed there. But it's really interesting. They do a great job with these scenes. Some of them go for a bit too long, but they are really important if you're watching it for the first time. So I do recommend you sit through it. And it builds interest because you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, we'll talk about some of this stuff later. So here's another scene that we're not going to play the clip for, but this is Luthen, played brilliantly by Stellan Skarsgård. He really did an amazing job with this show, and he really just made me a huge fan. He delivers some amazing monologue. Every scene he's in, he steals the show. He grabs the audience's attention. He does a phenomenal job. What I want to talk about here is, so at this point, we don't really know much about this character. This is the buyer that Cass is meeting. All we know is that he's looking to buy Empire military parts, and we know he has an interest in Cassian. We don't know why yet, but this walking stick he's holding, I want to talk about this real quickly. So this is a great metaphor for his double life. So as you can see here, it's a walking stick. Later, it can be used as a weapon. It has many functions, and it looks quite intimidating. A guard holds it, and he thinks it's a weapon, but we're not really sure its purpose. But we can see here it's a walking stick for him. And this really is a great analogy for Luthen's double life. So we don't know this yet, but we see he lives a regular life. That's his cover. And then this is his rebel life, where he looks, disheveled and old and just like a random person. It's really well done, and in pretty much saying nothing, we just know so much about him. He's just such an interesting character. You don't really know much about him, and the way that they present him makes him thoroughly interesting. It reminds me a lot of how how Mando was introduced He just walks into the bar. You don't really know much about him, but it's really interesting, and you want to keep watching because you're like, what is this? What's going on here? The only difference is we know nothing about Luthen, nothing other than what's been told already. And even they don't know anything about him. They just know him as the buyer, right? Whereas Mando, we know Mandalorians, they're bounty hunters generally, so we know a little bit about them, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. But you could have all the Star Wars knowledge in the world, and you would have no idea who this character is, what they do, etc. And that's what I really love about this show. So many people I've tried to recommend this show to me are like, well, I'm not really much of a Star Wars guy, and it's a bit slow, and fair enough. But what I really like about the show is it can appease to so many people. It has many Western sort of themes. The climax of the final episode and episode 3, many climaxes has really good Western vibes, and the calm before the storm is really interesting. They have some great line delivery in those moments. And then there's also a beautiful prison break scene. So there's really something for everyone here. And I don't think you need to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy this show, and that's truly why I made this video, is because I believe this show is so amazing and underrated. Nobody talks about it. I've barely seen any videos on YouTube about people talking about how great this is. And so, you know, if you like this show, if you give it a watch, please recommend it to your friends. I don't care if they don't like Star Wars, recommend it. Start them at, you know, the beauty of having 3-part episode sequences means you can sort of just start them at like many different points in the season, and they do a good job of keeping you up to speed. You just watch the recap and you sort of get invested. But if you start them off on one of those and they watch all 3, which I guarantee they will, especially if you don't start them on episode 1, if you start them on like episode 4, they'll be locked in. Trust me, it's so invested. It's so investing. You just get hooked on it. And I really think that any of your friends who aren't Star Wars fans could have the potential to like this. I'm trying to build my girlfriend up to it. We'll see how that goes. She's watching Mandalorian now, which she's really enjoying. So hopefully we can get her the patience to watch this show. You know how TikTok brain is, but you know, I'm a victim of that too. But what I really just wanted to show here is they do a great job with saying nothing but showing so much. It's a brilliant, brilliant scene, and I didn't even play a clip for you.
Never changes, does it? You know what they say?
What was that?
If you can't find it here, it's not worth finding.
Okay, wow, 30 seconds and there's so much to talk about here. So, first of all, let's start off with the basics. So, there's a longer scene there with Luthen in the bus, I guess, talking to that old guy. And that old guy, oh my god, he's really funny. He's only in it for 1-2 scenes. Oh, he's just funny. He's a lovable old grandpa. And every character just has so much love put into them by the writers, which is great to see. What we learn is Luthen is very cut off. We haven't seen him interact with anyone other than his ship AI yet, but you can tell he's looking out the window, he's distant, he keeps to himself. But what we also learn from dialogue is this place has everything, and a brilliant line, if you can't find it here, it's not worth finding. That's just a great line, and it really just tells the story. It also builds on that world building. So it reminds me a lot of Jedi Fallen Order, the PS4 game featuring Cal Kestis. The intro to that game is him as he works in a scrapyard and they're decommissioning old ships and yada yada, and it's realistic, it's a real job, and it makes the Star Wars universe more lived in. And again, talking back on Acolyte, the intro to that scene is just the intro to the Acolyte, episode 1, is just some random planet, some random tiny village on some random planet. It doesn't look interesting, it's dark, it's boring, but this has a very nice color palette, a nice aesthetic, the dark brown, the depressing colors, but it's realistic. It's not some random planet that has a bunch of vegetation, so it should be bright, which doesn't make sense. But no, this is an industrial plant. You can see the smog in the clouds. You know this is a working town, and they're, you know, they sell stuff, they create stuff, they do parts, they do whatever you need, and they'll make it, and they have it here. Another thing we learned is that score. I want to touch on this again. That score is so amazing. Just like, it really builds the scene. So you can see Cassian here running. Clearly he's determined and he's really knowing his time is up. This is really building suspense for the next episode. This is what I'm talking about with the binge watching thing. It really makes you want to watch the next episode because you're like, oh, shit's going down. Let me tune in. And that's what I did. And I tuned in and I wasn't disappointed, trust me. But you see him running, he's dedicated while people are working in the background. It's a lived in. The world building in this show is amazing. Again, the fact that they made Rick's Road and the pan over shot, you can see the bell tower, the hotel, both of which will become pivotal points in the plot, especially nearing the end of season 1. And I'm so glad they built the set because it really looks so fantastic, and then the pan over shot is great. It's such a lived in world, and it's a really underrated thing to accomplish. There's so many scenes that are just random locations that don't have any soul put into them, you know. But the thing that's great about Star Wars, it's infinite possibilities with set limitations. Coruscant, everyone loves Coruscant because it's such a unique idea. Every country has like a big populated city, but then it just spans out into suburban areas. So what about a planet where everything is a city? Like New York, it would be a nightmare. I couldn't imagine. But they do a really good job here is what I'm really honing in on, and I can't stress that enough. So this is the final scene we're going to talk about for episode 2. But I really want to show this final clip because it's so amazing, and trust me, if you watch the whole like last minute of episode 2, you won't be disappointed. It is phenomenal. So let's move on to episode 3 now. Okay, so I'm about to let the scene play, but first I just want to talk on a couple things and point out some things that I really want you to notice. So first, the obvious, Biggs looks very nervous. We're not really well, we know why she's nervous, but she's not Cassian. She's not wanted by the Corp. But she knows she's sticking her neck out, and this is a risky predicament. She's very nervous. She's not a criminal. She's just an average working person, and this really isn't her wheelhouse, you know. Usually whenever she contacts the sailor, it's not a tense situation like it is now, but this does a really good job of showcasing the stakes. Another thing you're about to see is before leaving, she'll pay for her bill and say thank you. Now they left that in there for a particular reason, just showcasing her empathetic side. She really is just a lovable character. She's a nice person, and it really shows why she's sticking her neck out for Andor. She's willing to help a person just because she's nice, I suppose. But the thing I really want you to focus on in the scene that I'm about to show you is the people moving around in the background. You'll see someone step into frame and cover the two main characters for 5 seconds. And you're probably thinking, well, why did they do that? I'll tell you why they did that. So it really makes them feel like they're blending in. In much of Star Wars media, you'll see Jedi walking around with robes and you'll think to yourself, well, they're sticking out like a sore thumb. But apparently no one can seem to notice them until they take their hoods off. And it doesn't really make sense. But here, they use the cinematography in an excellent way to just show how the two main characters are blending in with the rest of the people. It's a great comparison, especially when the Corp guards get here, where they have a bright colored uniforms that stick out like a sore thumb, and their presence alone is quite intimidating. No one here seems to really like the Corpo guards. It's a small town, you know, it's a tourist destination. They're really ungoverned at this point, and the Corpos really will stick out. But we'll talk about that later. I'm just going to let the scene play. But again, I want you to watch all the background characters, as well as the main characters, Luthen and Biggs here.
Thank you. There's been a complication. I missed the window to go back.
Calmly.
3 more enforcement put out a bulletin last night for someone meeting Cassian's description.
I've seen it. The bulletin doesn't mention him by name. It says they're looking for someone from Canary. His Imperial prison record says he's from Fest.
Yeah, that's always been his story.
Has he been identified?
I don't think many people know.
He killed these men on Molana. Then we better be quick about it. Where is he?
So this is the first scene in episode 3 that we're talking about. If I didn't mention that earlier, my apologies. But what's really important here again, obviously the first thing, the walking stick. We still don't really know what it does, but you can see it has a different function this time. He's not really using it, and it goes just, it's just a common piece of his character, and it really just fleshes Luthen out. Another important thing here to double down, so as we know, as I just spoke about, Biggs is nervous. This isn't her wheelhouse, she's not used to this. But Luthen immediately calms her, showcasing 1, the power dynamic, and 2, the relationship, or not the relationship, but we know that this isn't his first rodeo, essentially. We immediately, in their conversation, understand that he's probing her, but also showcasing his knowledge and experience. He's probing the situation, he's analyzing it, he's smart, he's intelligent, and he knows what he's doing. So they're going to move quickly through. Now, we'll talk about some other scenes featuring Luthen first, but this is the first time Luthen interacts with any of the main cast, and it's a really good introduction. You immediately understand the power dynamic, and I don't know if you've spotted a trend yet, but Andor does a great job of having so many scenes that have so much juice. We talked about so much stuff in this one scene alone, and it's not the first scene in episode 3, but it is the first scene we'll talk about. There is a flashback sequence where we see Casa as a child, but we'll talk about those later and just talk about the whole narrative they present in this episode, so you don't have to watch all of them and I don't have to play all of them for you. Anyway, we'll move on to the next scene.
Let's get that console unit.
Maybe we should quit while we're ahead.
Are you listening? It's safe. Whatever it was, it's burned off. Just get your mask off.
Time, not gas. We said 20 minutes tops. I don't want to know what that is.
There must be at least 6 brand new fuel nodules up ahead.
We got more than we can carry already.
What's the asking price of those today, B?
For sale or barter. Are you kidding? We need to leave now.
Could be anything.
Well, in that case, by all means, let's power forward. I like your spirit, son. You just might not want to be here when it comes to clean up.
Quédate! Ale callo! Ale caso! He doesn't understand you.
Republic frigate approaching.
That scene was amazing. There's so much you learn about these 3 characters. So first let's talk about the dad. His name is Clem. It's the first time we've seen him up until this point, and throughout the season he really only has about 6 scenes, but he does such a good job of being a father-like figure even though he's not around for Cassian's adulthood. There's a scene at the end of the final episode, or the middle of the final episode, that is just so amazing. It gives me goosebumps every time. And he does a really good job of playing that dad role. The obvious thing being he wants to get out of there. He doesn't want to risk losing his wife. We don't really know their relationship, but we're assuming it's a wife. He doesn't really want to risk anything. He's very overprotective, but, well, not overprotective, but he doesn't want to lose what he's got. We also see he's holding a blaster pistol, or whatever you want to call it, and that's Cassian's gun. It's what he uses from now, so it really shows that they're close in their relationship. Next we've got Marva. Now Marva being, I'm not going to lie to you, she looks pretty old, but you know, it's the actor, what can you really do about it? But in the actual show, she does a really good job of just showcasing her adventurous side and her get the next big score side. 2 traits that really transfer over to Cass, as you see. The fact that he's even in that separatist spaceship alone, which again you might have heard the Republic frigate is coming, which I don't know why it wasn't a separatist ship, but it's a separatist ship that they were on. But during that, you can really see she's trying to get that next big score, and Cass has that instilled in him, as you see throughout the episode. So it's that setup and payoff. Another thing you see is he's got that rebellious side. Now there's another flashback scene later that's on Rick's Road, and that's the payoff for this setup, or it's also setup, but there's a really nice payoff for it as well. But yeah, that scene has just so much juice for just these 3 characters, and it's really where you learn how they met, the fact that he was an adopted orphan, but They both have these parental sort of instincts, and you can both see them. They're immediately concerned about what's this random child doing here? Where's his clan? Whatever. But we'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly talk on that very short scene. Not a lot of information, but a lot of show don't tell, which again, we love to see.
West team on site. East team sit rep, over.
East team inbound on approach. 3 minutes from LZ.
North team sit rep.
North team here. We're on site.
Copy that. North team stand by.
Okay, so in literally 20 seconds of footage, we learn many important things. 4 or 5 important things, you would argue. So let's talk about Cyril again. I don't know if you've noticed, but he's a really well done character, and I can't stop talking about him. No fault of my own. So Cyril, we again see he's nervous, he's uncomfortable. This is his first real on-the-ground mission, and he's not experienced with a firearm. He's an officer, you know, this isn't his area of expertise. So you can see here he's surrounded by guards and he's nervous. Another thing you immediately notice is the locals are not happy to see them. Again, that blue sticking out like a sore thumb, and it's a really pretty uniform, but the locals don't really seem to be too fond of their uninvited visitors, which is very important later. Both of these things very important. Cyril's lack of experience and the locals being unhappy really pushes their hand, I guess. It puts them in a difficult situation. Another thing we learn is the Irish fellow stepping out first, clearly showing his experience, and he looks comfortable, he looks confident, he looks determined, so we know he's ready to move forward, and he's not nervous at all. This is like another day in the office for him, right? The final thing we learn here that's important is the radio comms tell us that this is an organized effort. These are no pushovers. They know what they're doing. This is a group, okay? They've positioned themselves strategically around and they're going to advance forward. This is no pushover. These are no clumsy stormtroopers that can't make a shot. This is no bounty hunter or raiders or anything. This is a coordinated group that's backed by the Empire, and they clearly know what they're doing apart from Cyril. So again, 20 seconds, so much information, it's really good. But we'll move on forward and we'll have probably one more scene talking about Cyril in this episode. The video is getting a bit long and I apologize for that. There's just so much information and I'm cutting out so much stuff, which is difficult because again, first time editing. But yeah, so one more scene with Cyril, but we'll talk about him later.
Haven't seen any blues in a while. What the hell are they doing? Hunting with somebody.
Okay, again, a really short scene, really important. So I know that's 2 technically scenes, but do you notice how Luthen's walking stick, it really just shows his mysterious qualities? Why put it away? Why have that short scene of just seeing walking around? Because we don't know much about him. That walking stick, its function, we don't know anything about it, and it just really builds intrigue about the character. Now, the main character in this scene that we're looking at now doesn't even say a word, but what's really important here is again the world building. You notice they called the corpos blues, which just shows their slang. This isn't some force being renamed the Thread, which is just stupid. Let's not pretend. This is them having their own little nickname in their own little community, and it's cool, and it's probably galaxy-wide, right? Another thing that shows is the locals immediately can tell why they're here. They don't come out for very many reasons, and the only reason they come out here is to serve a warrant or arrest someone. So everyone sort of knows while they're here, and no one seems happy about it. The other really important setup thing here is you can see the gentleman, the main character, blanking on his name, sorry about that, but I'm going to keep going. He is just working, you know, and this will be important later because he is a bit rebellious and he doesn't look too happy that they're here either. We'll cut later, but we'll cut to what he does later, but notice how he's working and he knows how to operate the tools at his disposal. Keep that in mind.
What difference does that make?
I see 3 choices. Either you're an Imperial spy, you're fronting for the person I really want to speak to, or you're the thing itself.
I see one choice. Either you got my money or you don't.
So which is it? I know big stats are game. I know you bribe quartermasters to leave valuables on the ships before they come in for scrap, but this isn't that. This isn't something that let pass.
No. I went in and got this myself.
How? How's that possible? It was sealed on the Imperial Naval Base in Steergard.
Look, you got the money, I got the box. What else is there to talk about?
I'll give you another 1,000 credits to tell me how you got it.
Another 1,000.
Done. How?
You just walk in like you belong.
Takes more than that, doesn't it?
What, to steal from the Empire? What do you need? A uniform, some dirty hands, and an Imperial toolkit. They're so proud of themselves. They don't even care. They're so fat and satisfied. They can't imagine it.
Can't imagine what?
That someone like me would ever get inside their house. Walk their floors, spit in their food, take their gear.
The arrogance is remarkable, isn't it? They don't even think about us.
Boss, I don't know you.
Fair enough, but I know you. These days will end, Cassian Andor. The way they laugh, the way they push through a crowd. The sound of that voice telling you to stop, to go, to move. Telling you to die. Rings in the air, doesn't it?
Why don't you let me count that money?
Well, they'll think about us soon enough.
We should get moving.
Soon enough. I'll have something else to listen to.
You don't want to get caught with it.
Well, they'd hang me, wouldn't they? Take me up Rick's Road and hang me in the square. Wouldn't be the first time, would it? Isn't that where they hung your father?
Who are you? What is this?
I said I know you. I know all about you. Yes, I want the box, and I'll leave with that if it's all I can get. I came looking for something more, and I think I found it. I'd like you to come with me.
How do you know about me?
I was hoping for a more relaxed conversation, but you're right, we don't have time. Contrary to what you told me, I doubt that you'll be sticking around. I know you killed 2 corpos at Molana 1. I know they're coming for you. Seems like such a waste to let them have you. Waste of talent.
Who are you?
That's the wrong question. The right question is, how much time do we have to get out of here?
Why would I go anywhere with you?
Don't you want to fight these bastards for real?
Oh my god, what an amazing scene. Look, if you're not in love with Andor after watching that, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe just try My Little Ponies or something. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe Star Wars ain't for you. Ring it up, guys. But seriously, this is such a great scene, and there's so much to unpack that I really don't have time, so I'll just keep it brief. So a couple things, that beautiful score, uplifting as we reveal more about Luthen, showcasing that, oh, this could be his way out, this could be, you know, just really showing the importance. Another thing, you very rarely see Luthen close up while they're having an interaction. It's mostly over the camera shots, especially when Cassian draws his gun. It's over the shoulder rather. And they do that so you're in Cassian's perspective, and you look as Luthen as a sort of like, who is this guy? And then the more information he reveals, the more time we see with the zoom up at his face. Right now, obviously you can see his face very easily. But yeah, great scene. Luthen obviously showing his intelligence as well, immediately understanding you're not going to stick around, yada yada, I've done my research, your father. He knows right exactly which buttons to press and how to get through to Cassian, because Cassian, the entire scene, is pretty much concerned with the money. He wants to get out of Dodge, and he wants to get out of Dodge quick. Again, the blaster, notice it's his father's, which really doubles down on the whole. That's exactly why they showed the scene with his father before this, because it really doubles down on the, you told me that my father was hung right to my face, and now I'm going to pull his gun on you. You know, it's really like symbolic beauty there. But yeah, so much to unpack, and I encourage you to watch the scene again just so you can get all the juicy bits, because it's such a great scene. Skarsgård does an amazing job delivering his lines. Great job. He just steals the show.
Hey, it's Mr. Editor here. Just one thing I forgot to mention that's really important from that scene is when they talk about how little the Empire cares. That's really important. It's a very important theme throughout the show that, big government body don't care about the little guy. It's very important. And from this point on, you'll really see that in the next like 3 episodes and the 3 episodes after that. It's constantly shown that the Empire really doesn't have to care. They don't play by the rules, and they don't have to because they're such a big, powerful force, which is really important. When they introduce the Imperial threat or the main antagonist, that's also a common thing that's really important because she does care about the little man. She does care about the little guy, and that's really important. So just a quick thing I wanted to touch on, but we'll move on to the next scene now.
There's 2 of them. 2 humans, heavily armed, heading your way.
Keep them flanked. Keep pushing. Keep the channel open.
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
Apparently so.
We just gonna stand here?
Point taken. We'll split up. Take positions. Pick them off when they come through. Rifle! Let's go! Left flank, right flank!
Okay, a serious problem in Obi-Wan Kenobi was how stupid the Imperials were. It's a really bad showcase of writing when the enemy is dumb and the heroes are slightly smarter. Like an idiot enemy would just, not be able to see something that's really stupid. So the example I want to use here is in Obi-Wan Kenobi, they sneak through that base. If you haven't seen it, I'll just quickly summarize. They sneak through a base and they're hiding Princess Leia right under his trench coat. It's really stupid. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and someone would have spotted them. There's cameras, there's droids, there's armed forces everywhere. It just doesn't make sense. But in this scenario, I really wanted to highlight just quickly how excellent the writing truly is, which again, common theme, right? So the enemy, they're aware that they're coming this way, and these corpo guards, they're not even the Imperial, they're not even the military, they're quite intelligent and combat ready. Cyril immediately saying, let's get moving, come on, we can't just stand here, clearly showing his determination to catch Andor yet again. And the Irish gentleman pushing the team, being like, all right, hand me the rifle, I'm going to take a high ground, which is what he does. Let's split up, take high positions, and we'll lay a trap, basically. It's really smart. Fortunately, the heroes, which you will see, or perhaps not, depending if I show the clip, will get out of this, and it's very impressive. It's truly, again, a really good showing of good writing when you really think, oh, this is going to be a serious threat. It's probably going to be a gunfight. They'll lay a trap, but the good writers are even better. The scene prior showcasing, they're not really sure where they are. There's no signs. This is unfamiliar territory, and Andor has the home advantage, which really shows because he'll outflank them. The next scene I'll show you is him catching them off guard, but the flanking ability is really impressive, and it works well narratively. He has the home advantage. In the later season, when the Imperials are occupying this planet, it doesn't make sense that Andor can outflank them. Now, he does in various intelligent ways, and if I ever make those episodes, then I'll talk about it. But it's just really intelligent in the way that they use the home advantage. A lot of shows don't use home advantage correctly. But again, the Imperials in the final episode, they've been here a while. They know the stretch, so he has to take even more desperate ways like tunnels, pipes, narrow pathways that even residents here don't know about, and it's really impressive. But yeah, just a quick scene. I know I was talking for a while, sorry about that, and I apologize if I sound a bit tired. It's like 2 a.m. here, but I'm really trying to get this video out. I'm just so happy with what I've done, and it's a passion project yet again. But I'll see you in the next scene. So we're not going to play the clip here, but what I want to quickly illustrate is just the subtle writing. Again, show don't tell being used brilliantly. So we're nearly through the episode, and this is the calm before the storm moment. So you notice these aliens running away, and that really is what tips off Andor. Oh, a corpo guard is here. It happens to be Cyril, and you'll see in the next scene that I show you. how he takes advantage. But a lot of people, I didn't even realize this the first time I watched this show, but this scene is just very quick. It's only about 3 seconds, but it just shows how Andor notices, oh, there's people leaving the building. Why are they doing that? Building safe from the corpos. So it really gives him the up and up, if you will.
Drop the weapon. Now take off the comm. Put it down. How many are you?
I don't know.
Kill him. How many? I'll kill him.
12, 14. A dozen men, 2 officers. I swear.
Okay, so spoiler alert, Cyril doesn't die. He's a recurring character and he's a great character at that. But as you can clearly see here, he's quite stressed. So this is just really finalizing their characters, narrowing down sort of who they are, and this is important because it allows them to escape. So as you can clearly see, any of the other soldiers, if they were caught, it would be more than likely that they probably wouldn't reveal any information. In the climax leading up to this point, we see they're all battle hardened, none of them are stressing, they're all ready, they know what they're about to do, and they're ready to do it. Cyril, being an officer, and this is his first time in the field, he's quite intimidated. Look at him, he's crying like a little bitch. Jokes aside, it's just a really nice part for Cyril because it makes sense. It's clear character, it's consistent. Andor again showing his resourcefulness, immediately saying, give me the comm, give me your blaster, you know, I've got a gun to you, there's nothing you can do, right? But also, what we see here is Luthen, again, we still don't know that much about him, but we know he doesn't value human life as much as Andor does. Andor doesn't kill him here. He shows his morality. He leaves him tied up, which was a bit of a mistake because he comes back to haunt Andor later, presumably especially in this next season, rather, which, as of this recording, is not out and won't be for another, God, yeah, God, I'm devastated about that. But so we just see his morality, we see his kindness, which is important because many of his actions in the future are based on moral values. But yeah, Luthen doesn't care. He just says, "I'll kill him." You know, he doesn't care about the life, and that really shows how long he's been doing this and how jaded and bitter he is, and he just doesn't care that much anymore. He knows that probably getting rid of a loose end is more important, but they haven't seen him and they never see Luthen's face, so he knows that he's safe. And if if Cyril saw Luthen's face, there's a good chance he would have been killed. Like Luthen is, as we learn in the future episodes, extremely just scared of being caught. He's very cautious and it's very impressive. He reminds me a lot of I'm blanking on his name, but the gentleman from Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, just very cautious and he's very smart. He hasn't been caught for a reason, and that's important to illustrate here.
Okay, that's everything, guys. That's episode 1 to 3. Um, I'm so glad you guys listened to it. Hopefully you're hearing this. But I just wanted to summarize some things before we end off here. I'm sorry about the long video. I tried to keep it under 1 hour and 20, and I successfully did that. But I just want to touch on the final scene, and I didn't show it because I think it's really better if you watch it yourself because it's a long, beautiful score, a violin score that was excellent, beautiful soundtrack that just plays through the last like 3 minutes, and it's really nice. But there's a lot of symbolism in it, and I think it's just better if you watched it for yourself. But um, yeah, that's everything, guys. So again, I really thank you for watching. This is quite a lot of fun to make. I really enjoyed it. Even if it doesn't pay anything, which it won't, I just really enjoyed talking about Andor. I truly believe this is an underrated masterpiece. It's undervalued and it's flawless in all accounts, in my opinion. I've been rewatching The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian season 1 is excellent and even better in writing in some aspects, but this truly, from a narrative perspective, is so flawless. And if you can get past the slower pace of it, it's truly a treat just to enjoy, just to rewatch constantly and enjoy everything. I've personally watched this, um, the entire season 1 about 5 times now, not including watching the first 3 episodes many times for the making of this video. Um, and the last episode I've watched even more than that. It was just so good, the beautiful climax, and there's so much you just miss every scene. I was just relearning things and finding new stuff out, and it was just beautiful. But I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Please leave a comment if you enjoyed. Please like the video if you enjoyed. I would love to know what you thought. The quality is a bit shaky, but I'm hoping I can tune it up a little bit. It sounds a bit weird in the shortcut I'm using because that's just the thing that was recommended to me. But yeah, guys, let me know. I'll let the trailer finish playing. But thank you so much for being with me, guys. It means a lot.